Today's topic is power plan. Here, power plan is done to provide uniform supply voltage to all the cells in the design. The primary objective of power planning is to ensure that all on-chip components like blocks, memories, I/O cells, etc., have adequate power and ground connections. There are three levels of power distribution, which are rings, stripes, and rails. Rings carries VDD and VSS around the chip. Stripe carries VDD and VSS from rings across the chip. Rails connects VDD and VSS to the standard cell. The flow, how power is being carried out in the design, is shown with the help of arrows. You can just visualize with the given figure on the right hand side. There are two types of power planning management. They are core cell power management and IO cell power management. Core cell power management, here VDD and VSS power rings are formed around the core and macros. In addition to this, straps and trunks are created for macros as per the power requirement. Standard cell rails are created to tap power from power straps to standard cell power ground pins. IO power management, power rings are formed for I/O cells and trunks are constructed between core power ring and power pads. And trunks are also created between core power ring and power pads. Here, top to bottom approach is used for the power analysis of flattened design, while bottom up approach is suitable for macros. Power planning involves calculating number of power pins required, number of rings, stripes, width of rings and stripes, and IR drop. Input of power plan are netlist, SDC, physical and logical libraries, TLU plus, and UPF. Ideal power distribution network has the following properties. Firstly, maintain a stable voltage with little noise, avoid wear out from EM and self-heating, consume little chip area and wiring, and easy to lay out. The power information can be obtained from the front-end design. The synthesis tool reports static power information, while the dynamic power can be calculated using value chain dump, that is VCD, or switching activity interchange format, that is SAF, file in the conjunction with RTL description and test bench. Exhaustive test coverage is required for efficient calculation of peak power. This methodology is depicted in figure as shown below. UPF contents are power distribution architecture, which has power domains, that is groups of elements which share a common set of power supply requirements, supply rails, power distribution, which are port nets, sets and switches, and shutdown control. Second, the power strategy, power state tables, legal combination of states of each power domain, and operating voltages. Then thirdly, usage of special cells, isolation cells, level shifter cells, power switches, and retention registers are used. Isolation cells, here power off domains do not drive the output anymore, and these outputs become floating nodes. This could be a problem when other active domains gets these floating nodes as an input. It could result in crowbar current, which affects the proper functioning of power up domain. Isolation cells, also called the clamp cells, keep the turned off subblock output at a predefined value. This is how the shutdown subblock does not corrupt other active subblock functionality. Isolation cells are powered by a constant supply and drive 0, 1 or latch the old value of the turned off domain. This cell passes the logic values during the normal mode of operation but clamp it to some specified value when a control signal is asserted. The cells clamps the output of power down block to a specified value, that is 0, 1 or last. It has two types, that is gate type clamp cells or transistor type clamp cells as shown below. A level shifter cell, In multi-VDD design, a level shifter are used. A level shifter is the digital component which is used to convert the signal from one voltage level to another voltage level, that is from low voltage to high voltage and vice versa. Remember one thing, that the voltage level will change but the logic remains the same. Generally, buffer type and latch type level shifters are available. In general, high to low that level shifters are very simple, whereas low to high level shifters are little complex and are in general large in size, double height, and have two power pins. There are some placement restrictions for low to high level shifters to handle noise levels in the design. Level shifters are typically used to convert signals and protect against sneak leakage paths with great care. Level shifters can be avoided in some cases, but this will become less practicable on a wider scale. And now question arises like, where will you place these cells in your design? It basically depends where you are converting. It is placed near the receiver side. So low to high, the higher side level shifters is placed, and high to low, lower side level shifters are placed. For say high to low or low to high, if we don't place any level shifter cells, what problems we will face? This will be setup and hold violations. A setup will be for high to low, and hold violation will be for low to high. This happens because of the change in transition. Just look at the diagrams, like how high to low and low to high level shifters look like. Retention registers. In order to reduce power consumption, memories are shut down where their power domain is switched off or when they are not in use. Registers are corrupted when power is switched off. Some memories need to retain their values for fast wake up. For these memories, only the memory array stays powered on during the shutdown while the peripheral interface are powered off. Below you can see how retention register looks like. So retention means it retains the previous active value after being shut down. Retention registers save state information before a power domain is switched off and restore it when the power is turned on back. So you can see here latch and flip-flop is used. When we put the PC say on a sleep mode, it retains the value to the latch, and when we again on it, it restores the value from latch to the flip-flop. Power switches. Power switches are required to gate the power supply of gated domain. When not required, power switches are empty CMOS, that is multi-threshold cells, which will have very high threshold voltage when device is off and very low threshold voltage when device is on. Power switches are inserted in power mesh and supplied to all gated domain cells will be through power switches, hence a single few switches are not enough. A strong network of power switches connected in daisy chain fashion will be inserted in the design. You have to remember this, that these power switches are inserted along with the physical only cells. There are two types of power switches, header and footer. Header switch is implemented by PMOS transistor to control VDD supply, whereas the footer switch is implemented by NMOS transistor to control VSS supply. Advantage of header switch is that PMOS transistors are less leaky than NMOS transistors, and the area and these advantages that header occupies the larger space than footer. Basically, the PMOS are in larger size than NMOS. Frequently used power reduction techniques are power gating, clock gating, voltage and frequency scaling, substrate biasing, multiple threshold voltage, multiple supply voltages, and memory partitioning. Power gating. In a processor chip, certain areas of chip will be idle and will be activated only for certain operations, but these areas are still provided with power for biasing. The power gating limits the unnecessary power being wasted by shutting down power for that area and resuming whenever needed.
It is used for reducing leakage power or power consumption by switching off power supply to the non-operational power domain of the chip during certain mode of operation. Header and footer switches, isolation cells, state retention flip-flops are used for implementing power gating. Clock gating is a popular technique used in many synchronous circuits for reducing dynamic power dissipation. Clock gating saves power by adding more logic to a circuit to prune the clock tree. Pruning the clock disables portion of the circuitry so that the flip-flops in them do not have to switch state. Switching states consume power. When not being switched, the switching power consumption goes to zero and only leakage current are incurred. Voltage and frequency scaling. It changes the voltage and clock frequency to match the performance requirements for a given operation so as to minimize leakage. Different blocks are operated at variable supply voltages. The block voltage is dynamically adjusted based on performance requirements. Frequency of the block is dynamically adjusted, works alongside with voltage scaling. Substrate biasing. It changes the threshold voltage to reduce leakage current at the expense of slower switching times. Multiple threshold voltage uses different VT in the circuit to reduce leakage but still satisfy timing constraints. Multiple supply voltages. Using multi-VDD reduces power consumption by powering down the not used voltage domain. Different blocks are operated at different supply voltages. Signals that cross voltage domain boundaries have to be level shifted. One more which I have not mentioned is memory partitioning. The memory is split into several partitions. Not used ones can be powered down. Types of power dissipation. The power dissipation is classified in two categories: static power dissipation and dynamic power dissipation. Static power dissipation: in this class, power will be dissipated irrespective of frequency and switching of the system. It is continuous and has become more dominant at lower node technologies. The structure and size of the device result in various leakage currents. Few reasons for static power dissipations are subthreshold current, gate oxide leakage, diode reverse bias current, gate induced leakage. It's hard to find the accurate amount of leakage current, but it mainly depends on supply voltage, threshold voltage, transistor size and doping concentration. Dynamic power dissipation. There are two reasons of dynamic power dissipation: switching of the device and short circuit path from supply, that is VDD, to ground, that is VSS. This occurs during operation of the device. Signals change their logic state, charging and discharging of output mode capacitor. Short circuit power dissipation. Because of slower input transition, there will be certain duration of time t for which both the devices PMOS and NMOS are turned on. Now there is a short circuit path from VDD to VSS. This short circuit is given by P short circuit is equal to VDD, that is supply voltage, into short circuit current into short circuit time. Short circuit power is directly proportional to rise time and fall time. Switching power dissipation. Energy is drawn from the power supply to charge up the output mode capacitance. Charging up of the output cap causes transition from 0 to VDD. So, the power dissipated during charging and discharging of total load, output capacitance plus net capacitance plus input capacitance of driven cells, is called switching power dissipation. The switching power is given by P switch is equal to switching activity into supply voltage square into operating frequency into load capacitance. The two fundamental sources of power supply noise are IR drop and LdI/dt noise. IR drop. The power supply in the chip is distributed uniformly through metal layers across the design, and these metal layers have their finite amount of resistance. When we applied the voltage, the current starts flowing through these metal layers and some voltage is dropped due to the resistance of the metal wire and current. This drop is called IR drop. Because of IR drop, delay will increase and it violates the timing, and this will increase noise and performance will be degraded. So there are two types of IR drop, which are static IR drop and dynamic IR drop. Static IR drop. This drop is independent of cell switching and this is calculated with the help of metal own resistance. Dynamic IR drop. This drop is calculated with the help of switching of cells. When a cell is switching at the active age of the clock, the cell requires large current or voltage to turn on, but due to voltage drop, sufficient amount of voltage is not reached to the particular cell and cell maybe it goes into metastable state and affect the timing and performance. Here are the methods to improve the static and dynamic IR drop. First we'll look into static IR drop. We can go for higher layers if available, increase the width of the straps, increase the number of wires, and check if any via is missing, then add more vias. And to improve the method for dynamic IR drop, use decap cells, increase the number of steps. The tools which we used for IR drop analysis are Redhawk from Apache and the Voltage Storm from Cadence. Electromigration. When a higher density of current is flowing through a metal layer, the atoms, electrons in the metal layer are displaced from their original position, causing opens and shorts in the metal layers. Heating also accelerates electromigration because higher temperature causes a high number of metal ions to diffuse. In higher technology nodes, we saw the electromigration on power and clock metal layers, but now in lower nodes, the signal metal layers are also needed to be analyzed due to an increased amount of current density. Clock nets are more prone to electromigration because they have high switching activity. Because of this, only we are avoiding the use of high drive strength clock buffers to build the clock tree. Methods to solve electromigrations are increase the width of wire, buffer insertion, downsize the driver, switch the net to higher metal layers, adding more vias, keep the wire length short. And these are the checklist after power planning.